Before Dr. Bishop talked to y'all about Department of Audits, how many of y'all knew the Department of Audits existed? Nobody. Okay, so we are a branch of the government of the state of Georgia. We have several divisions. We have an admin division, a financial audits division, an IT division, a nonprofit and local government division, professional standards division, a performance division, sales ratio division, and a technology risk and assurance division. We're one of the few departments in the state that actually has an IT division because our information is so confidential. And not only is it confidential, but to play with the independence role that you have to be independent as an auditor, we actually have our own IT department. Olivia and I are a part of the financial audits division, and we both work out of regional offices. We actually have regional offices in Augusta, Calhoun, Douglas, Leesburg, Macon, Statesboro, Villa Rica, and Watkinsville. We always call that one the Athens office. So we have offices all over the state to cover the audits that we do. Now, the whole department does audits over state agencies and but the regional offices mostly work in school districts, colleges and universities, technical colleges. We have done some libraries and some REISs, but for the most part, we do school districts. One of the engagements that we do is Georgia Southwestern. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a manager out of the Leesburg office. I've been with the department 16 years. I graduated from Georgia Southwestern with my bachelor's and started immediately working for the department in Leesburg. Before that, I worked here in the student accounts office, and so I started working in 2002. I then turned around and re-enrolled, and while I worked at the department, got my master's here. So that is an option. We have several people that do that will get their master's at night while they're working for the department. Olivia, I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Okay, like she said, I'm in the Macon office, and I've been with the Department of Audits for almost 4 years now. I got my undergrad at Georgia, and then I'm from Macon, so I moved back home, and I got my master's at Georgia College while living at home, and then during my master's, I was interning at Walden Jenkins doing taxes, and at the same time sitting for the CPA. So I did that, and then after my internship and after I got my master's, I started a full-time job there's another accounting firm in Macon called McNair, McLemore, Middlebrooks. So I started working there doing bank audits. And I probably will tell you more about that later as far as like how that compares to the Department of Audits working in public versus governmental. Now, let's see, what else? So, like Carol said, so far it's been easy, not easy, but it has been. I've been able to move up within the department. I started at a staff 1, then moved up to staff 2. Now I'm a senior auditor 1. And during my time at the department, I was able to get my CPA and pass all the parts. And there's an immediate bonus as soon as you pass that. So it's been very beneficial for me. Do you want me to? Okay, we're kind of on a tag team here.
Okay, when I first started talking to Dr. Bishop about coming and talking to y'all, she wanted us to answer 3 questions. What do we do as auditors? what is difference between a CPA firm and the department, and then what is the career path at the department. As auditors, I told y'all that we mostly are in the regional office. We're mostly working in school districts. So we go out to the school districts. We get their financial statements, and we do, I'd say, probably 90% of the work in our office. Everything is so electronic these days that we actually don't have to travel on site. I mean, the last one I worked on, we were on site for 4 days. So it's really not real bad. And because we have regional offices all over the state, we're able to commute all of ours. You may be asked to travel an audit every now and then, but you know, we don't. For most nights, I'm at home at my house. So we take those financial statements and pretty much go through, make sure they're recording things where they need to record them, make sure they're doing things in line with Georgia law. We also look at their federal compliance. Because they receive so much money in federal expenditures, federal funds, then we have to audit their federal funds specifically. One of the things here that we do is audit student financial aid, because the student financial aid is such a huge part of the funds that are received. So we do compliance audits on those and check for against regulations. My career in the department, I started out as a staff 1, and I moved up to a senior 2, which is one of the highest auditing positions, within 5 years. And then I recently, in the last 2 years, became a manager. The manager is more in line with, we review all the audits that that our employees do, and then turn them in to our deputy directors. So you can go from staff 1 to staff 2, senior 1 to senior 2, and then manager 1, and there is a manager 2 position, and then you can move all the way up into a deputy director's position, which they kind of help us. I mean, they prepare things for us and plan seasons, and they're looking at what GASBs are coming down the line that we need to be prepared for to look into.
What's a GSW?
Governmental Accounting Standards Board makes the standards for your governmental statements.
So similar to FAST.
It is. It's just the government side of it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we as a department offer an incoming auditor. You would be coming straight out of college. You would be hired as a staff 1, and our starting salary for a staff 1 with a bachelor's degree is $45,000. If you have your master's, you get a little bit of a bump. It's $1,500, so you get $46,500. As Olivia mentioned earlier, she got her CPA. That is one thing that is going to be different from a firm and the department. The department encourages you to get your CPA, but I'm a manager 1 and I do not have my CPA. So it is not a requirement. It's not, if you don't get it within the next year, you're fired. We do encourage it. We like for employees to get it, but it's not. It won't hold you back, I guess is what I'm trying to say. However, if you do get your CPA, you do get a stipend. Now, the stipends that you get for getting certifications are yearly stipends. So once you get it every year, as long as you maintain your certification, you'll get the extra. And for a CPA, it's $3,000. We have some other certifications. The other ones are Certified Internal Auditor, Certified Government Financial Manager, Certified Public Finance Officer, Certified Fraud Examiner, Certified Government Auditing Professional. And they're not all as high as the CPA you get the most for. But let's see. The certified fraud examiner gets $150 a month. The certified government financial manager gets $100 a month. So it's worth it to go out there and look at the certifications. I know like a lot of people in the department have that certified government financial manager because it's an easy way to get an additional $1,200 a year, and it's not a really labor-intensive test. It's not as hard like the CPA is.
What test?
The certified government financial manager. But it's an easy way to get a little bit of extra money. So that test became really popular several years ago when the economy wasn't doing as great and we weren't getting raises, and the only way to get a raise was to go pass a test and get a certification. So in working for the department, you will be working on Yellow Book audits, which there is in line with the compliance audits. So we, as auditors, even though you don't have your CPA, are still required to get the 80 hours of continuing education. But in the department, we get all of our the department provides all of it. We don't have to go out and get any separate. Now, you may be sitting in a Becker class, an online Becker class, but it will prepare you for whatever you're working on, and it is paid for by the department. So it's not like you have to go out and get your own CPE. And the CPE is good for your CPA or just for our job in doing Yellow Book audits. We do require that you have an accounting degree, and we prefer that you have a 3.0 grade point average in your accounting classes. So I think in this little brochure that Dr. Bishop handed out, there's an email address on the back of it, and I have several more up here for you, those of you that walked in later. There's an email address for our recruiting coordinator, Natasha Blum. So if anybody wants to, if anybody wants to talk to our recruiting coordinator, you're more than welcome. You can send her an email, or that's where you send your resumes to apply for a job. Okay, I am going to let Olivia talk more about what the difference is between the Department of Audits and the firm, since I came straight out of college and went straight into working for the department. But Olivia actually, as she told you, worked for a firm. So I'm going to let her talk about that.
Okay, first, I'm just curious, how many of you know what governmental accounting is, or have had a class, or looked at it in the CPA book, or anything? No, so that was pretty much me. When I started at the firms, I didn't do governmental, but essentially it's the same concepts, it's the same auditing standards, but it just is governmental. Like the school boards aren't trying to make money is the main difference. They're just trying to keep in that position. Okay, so I started interning at Malden Jenkins during tax season, and it was great. I learned a ton. It was my first experience in the public sector, really. So I did pretty much everything, property tax returns, K-1s, partnership returns, what else? Looked at some Schedule 3s, did itemizing, a little bit of everything. So just kind of like got a good feel for what tax season is like. And I'm sure you've heard it's very demanding. There's long hours because everybody's trying to get their refund in, and then the firms are pretty much about billable hours. So they want you there. They want you there as long as you can. I had to work Saturdays, but it was only for like January through April that is really the crunch time. But I mean, you're there to work. And I will say that Mond & Jenkins is a really good firm, and they will compensate you well. When I started, even though I was just an intern, they gave me a 401k. They get it was tons of little benefits like that. And I think their hope is that you stay on, or they hire you after you get your master's or your degree or whatever it is. So they were good. They were good about that. I will say there was a lot of stress and pressure to have it right, get it right, do well for the client. There was just a lot of tiptoeing, oh, I don't want to make the wrong move, or I don't want to upset the boss or someone, a lot of that. So you got to understand your work environment, I think. So that was a big big thing for me. So let's see, what else? Okay. So I still had a year of my master's program to go after I interned there. And my internship did count towards some hours. So that, it all kind of worked out with that. So I ended up deciding that I wanted to try auditing after that. So I took a full-time job with the other accounting firm that's literally across the street from Mond & Jenkins in Macon, called McNair, McLemore, Middlebrooks. And they were it seemed like the ideal job. It was oh, we're going to travel. We're going to you're going to get to travel all the time. 60% of the year, you're going to get paid. We give raises. There's bonuses. And, we'll pay for you to get your CPA. It was a lot of good things like that. So, I'm excited. My first job is second day, you're going to go to Barnesville and you're going to sit at this bank all day and you're going to do the bank audit for whatever bank it was in Barnesville. And that's pretty much what I did. Every week, a different bank. And sometimes it was close enough to where I could come home, or it was far away where I had to spend the night for a week. It was just go, 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 go all the time. And again, they like for there to be FaceTime with the clients. They want the client to see you because we're charging the client. So they want to know that you're there, that you're doing the work, that you're, they'd be leaving at 5. You're still sitting there working on whatever. And it was kind of up to the partner's discretion when you got to leave. So if you made plans for dinner that night, sorry, you might not be getting to go. So, because the partner's still sitting there crunching numbers, so you got to still sit there. So it was a lot like that. And it was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Could be 6, 7, just depends. And then if you're away in a hotel, they expect you to go back to the hotel and do some more work. So there was a whole missing part of work-life balance that I did not, I didn't really enjoy per se. So that was a huge comparison. The travel, the overnight, whereas Department of Audits, I haven't really had any of that. It's very flexible for me to work here. I actually work 9s, which is an option you can work. So what it is every 2-week period, you got to get in your 80 hours. So every other Friday, I have that Friday off. So I work 9s, 9-hour days, Monday through Thursday. The first Friday is an 8-hour. Then the next Friday, I'm off. So that works out pretty nice for me. As long as I get in my 80 hours, I'm good. So I like that. There's also 10s, right?
Mm-hmm. You can work
You can work 10s. You can have every Friday off.
4 10-hour days.
But not many people do that because that's a long time.
Long day.
Long time. And then, of course, working 8s. But it's just, whatever works for you. So that works out pretty good for me. Let's see. I will say some things I noticed in public. So at 3M, which is what I call it, it was a lot of people that were single, that were divorced or about to get divorced. I'm just saying, there was not a lot of families. So take that into consideration when you're thinking about your future and thinking about what's important to you. Again, when I was in school, it was like, oh, you got to get your CPA, you're going to go to do accounting, go work at a Big Four firm, you're going to make so much money, but you're going to work your life away. Like you're going to be a slave to them. You're almost disposable to them, if that makes sense. Like there was no, oh, we're sad to see you go, what can we do to make you stay? Oh, we'll find somebody else. That's just kind of how it was. So, but with the department, it's totally opposite. It's very low key and laid back. Our clients are not, they're not really like on us. They're not stressing you out about how are you going to be here, when are we going to leave. I mean, some of them don't like us there that often, which because we're really not now. But because we're not paid by the client. So it's a different level of than it is at a firm, if that makes sense. Let's see. Anything else? And at the firm, I had to drive my own car, which they do pay you mileage, but it's all pretty much on your own, like your own dime, everything. Whereas here we get state cars. They give you a card to go fill up for gas. You do get per diem rates here, which we got with the firm too. They do pay for your hotel if you do have to travel, which again, it's not very often. Same thing with the firm, they pay for that. But I felt like you're missing out on a lot of just life. Like there was no, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym after work. Nope, I'm gonna be working. So you just gotta think about, is this what I wanna do every day? Literally sit, like at this chair, in this chair, 8 to 5, maybe 7, every day. Anyways, that's kind of how it was for me.
That's something that I have the privilege of in Leesburg. I have 2 children, a 7 and an 11-year-old, and they are in school. And school does, I don't know, Christmas parties, whatever, my 11-year-old is involved in sports, so I can set my schedule. I mean, if I go ahead and talk to my boss and say, hey, Owen's got a Christmas party this morning. Is it okay if I go to it and work later in the afternoon to make that time up? We do that all the time. I mean, I don't have to worry about missing out on things that my kids are involved in because of work. Now, it may put me home a little bit later, but, I still got to go to his program or whatever. And, the other day one had a dentist appointment and the other one was in the spelling bee. So I was able to do both just because of the flexibility. And having every other Friday off it makes it so much easier because there are so many things that you need to get done that they're closed on the weekend and you can't get it done. I've got some little fun facts here, and this just came off our website, so if you've looked at our website, you may have already, but this is some of the work that we have done, and I'm only gonna read the ones that are about colleges and universities and school districts. LEA, you'll hear me say that a lot. It's just local educational agency. It's what Department of Education calls all the school districts. But from our work, and this is from 1 year, from our work on state colleges, universities, and technical colleges, we identified question cost of $1.4 million. And when I say question cost, that means we turn it over to, well, in this case, Board of Regents, but lots of times that's, they ask for that money back. The colleges have to pay the money back.
What would be an example of a question cost?
Well, in a college, if we come in and do testing on student financial aid, one of the things we test for, most of you are aware, there are requirements for Pell Grant, Stafford Grant, and we check the students' records to make sure they met the requirements for whatever aid they received. If they didn't meet the requirements, then it's a question cost because they received the aid in error. So, you know, 1.4 million, when you look at it based on the state, it doesn't sound like a lot of money. But then when you break that down to per student, you're talking about a pretty good bit of money. And we don't actually do student financial aid testing at every college across the state every year. We as a department decide which ones have to be done. They have to have it done for accreditation purposes every so often. So we have to look at the accreditation purposes. We also have to look at the total dollar value of federal expenditures that we tested to make sure we tested enough to put an opinion on it. So, you know, that 1.4 million could come from 3 colleges. And when you start thinking about it like that, 3 colleges paying back 1.4 million is a pretty good bit of money. So our financial audits on local school systems resulted in 51 findings, and the 51 findings are the deficiencies that we reported in their audit report. It involved 15 major federal programs. So if any of y'all, the National School Lunch Program, if you went to a public school, you ate lunch, that's funded by a federal grant. And that's one of the grants that we do compliance work on. But we had total question cost of more than 2.8 million at school districts. You know, for a school district, you can have a question cost if you don't have a very good payroll clerk. She's not calculating salaries correctly. We can question cost and either make an employee pay back what they were overpaid or make the school district pay the employee what they were underpaid. There again, we check with for federal compliance regulations with school districts. So if they're not following their federal compliance regulations, the federal government may ask for some of their funding back or stop funding. I mean, they can, you know, say, hey, y'all aren't following the rules and we're not going to send you money for this grant anymore. So that's just some of the things that we have, as a department, have found. I know Dr. Bishop told me that several of you are interested in fraud, and it does kind of seem fun to think about sometimes, but we have found fraud. I was at a school district one time where we were looking at the after-school program, and the person running the program would go get a check from the board, go to Sam's, and buy all kinds of candy. She'd sell that candy to the kids. Guess where she put the profits? In her bank account. She never gave it back to the board. She kept it. So, you know, there are things that we have found where people are not. Do we do in-depth fraud investigations? Most of the time, no. We have specialized auditors in the department that will handle fraud cases. Now, they may say, hey, I need you to go do these procedures, you know, so you may be involved in it. But I also brought with me the job duties of a staff auditor. And I'm going to run through them real quick. So when you start out, you would be expected to perform specific audit procedures as assigned by your in-charge. Write narratives and conclusions based on findings derived from the audit procedures. So we would just, you know, expect you to be able to explain what you did and what you found and the conclusions you got from that. Conduct interviews with client personnel and perform walkthroughs to assist in the evaluation of internal controls. And when I say perform walkthroughs, what we're talking about is gaining an understanding of the internal controls that the entity has in place. Obtain prior work papers, reports, and other documents that are and materials that are necessary for field work. So most of that stuff is electronic these days. So the department provides you a computer to work with. So but you want to make sure that you have access to all of the prior working papers, because we actually do use those a lot. Just to if you're going in somewhere that you haven't been, you review those prior work papers real quick to determine what the entity is about, what they're, did they have any deficiencies in the prior year? What are you going to be looking at this year? And then assist in preparing final drafts of audit and review reports. Okay, the last thing we do offer, we do offer benefits, and they're state health benefits. So you would have access to state health benefit plan, which is your health insurance. We also have dental, vision, life, spouse life, child life, legal, accidental death and dismemberment, short-term disability, long-term care, spending accounts, and specified illness coverage. Now, I know I did that really, really fast, but it pretty much covers, it's a pretty good benefits package. As a new employee, you will also be eligible for the retirement system. It's the Georgia State Employees Pension and Savings Plan. Their retirement system it's a small pension, and then it also has a 401k, and the state will match your 401k up to 3%. We have 12 paid state holidays, so you're not going to get that in a firm, but we take the state holidays, and you get your normal. We get 2 days at Christmas, 2 days at Thanksgiving. We just had Martin Luther King. We get President's Day, but I think we take it like at Thanksgiving. We get Memorial Day, Confederate Memorial Day, Labor Day, and I know I didn't name them all, July 4th. But anyway, that's most of them. You also, when you start out, you get 10 hours of sick leave and 10 hours of annual leave, vacation time each month. And you can accrue that. Your annual leave, you can accrue up to 360 hours. And your sick leave, you can accrue up to 730 before you start forfeiting leave. I've been with the department 6 years. I only have like 100 hours of forfeited leave. So, and the forfeited leave is a little bit, you do forfeit it, so you can't use it. However, it will count towards your retirement. So, like my boss right now, he has 30 years in, but he has 2 years of leave built up. So he's going to get 32 years of credible service. So he could have actually retired at 28 years instead of 30, because normal retirement is 30 years. So you can save your leave, and it will go towards, so you can, if you want to retire early, you can. Once you've been with the department 5 years, you start getting, I think, 12 hours of annual leave. And once you've been with the department 10 years, you start accruing 14 hours a month of annual leave. So that's something else that you're not going to get with a firm, is the amount of leave. So I told y'all I've had 2 children. When I went out with both of my children, I was paid my entire maternity leave through my sick and annual leave. So I didn't have to worry about going without pay. Or, you can get short-term disability, but I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to worry about, what are we going to do? How are we going to make ends meet if I'm not receiving a check? Because I had enough leave built up that I was able to. Let's see. Is there anything else? Do y'all have any questions for us? I know we've been standing up here talking for a pretty good while.
Is anybody trying to take the CPA or studying for it now?
Not studying, but I plan
You are. I will say I started out using Becker, and that worked pretty well. And then I ended up needing less videos and more problems, so I did get Glime, and Glime was very helpful too. I know Becker's pretty expensive, but I would recommend those two.
There is with the department, if you're studying, and you get a discount for Becker. We have Becker's offered state employees or audit employees a discount. So that is one thing that we do have a program with Becker that I don't think we have one with Glime. Not that I'm aware of, but I do know they have one with Becker.
What kind of questions do you ask also?
Excuse me. We do have a centralized recruiter. However, if you say that you're interested in working in the Leesburg office, she will call me or the other manager in the Leesburg office, and we both together usually interview. Now, yeah, I'm not sure how the other regional offices handle their interviews, but so if you say you're interested in a specific regional office, that manager will be the one more than likely interviewing you. We do have cases like we had a student from here that was interested in a job, but he wanted to work in the Athens office. So he was here in class, so he couldn't go to Athens for an interview. So we ended up interviewing him in Leesburg, and he got hired and is working in the Athens office now. So I mean, there could be a scheduling conflict or a location conflict that we will do, but we like to interview the ones that are coming into our office so that we know if it's a good fit with our offices. In Leesburg, we will have 2 people interviewing you. Our central recruiter in our human resources office provides us with a document. It's a list of questions that, and the first part of it is, are you allowed to work in the U.S.? I mean, easy questions. But now the questions do go further in. What are your goals? What are you looking to do? And how do you think that you will help this office? One of the questions we've asked, if you've come across a time with a professor or anything else where you've had a problem or a strict deadline, how did you handle getting over that hurdle or meeting those deadlines, or if it's a difficult thing and you didn't get a lot of instruction, how did you accomplish your goals with that? And our interview process is pretty laid back. You just would come to the office and talk with Jerry and I. Jerry's the other manager in the Leesburg office. We also do ask you to take it's a small 1-page test, and I say test, but they're mostly true false. There are some little, I think there may be a bank reconciliation on it. There are some little questions like what's the true nature of the account for assets, liabilities, that kind of stuff. But we do ask that we want to get a basic knowledge of what accounting knowledge you have.
What kind of person are you looking for?
We are looking for somebody that's willing to work hard. This job, when I worked here in student accounts, I mean, it was a student position, so it wasn't a full-time job. It was, I collected money from students who came to pay. But I mean, it really didn't take long to learn that job. And every other job that I had, you go in and it may take you a few months to learn what they want you to do, but this job is not that way. This is a career job. It takes roughly 4 to 5 years to learn this job. And you will feel so lost at first, but I need somebody that is willing to dig in and learn that and get over that hump and stick with us, because in the end it pays off, especially if you're somebody that wants to settle down in an area and have a family and be really involved in that family's life. I'm not going to tell you there's not times you won't have to work overtime, but it's very few and far between. I have worked very little overtime in my career in 16 years. So, yeah. How many people am I looking for, or how many people can I take? I currently, all of our regional offices have openings. That was a message I got from my recruiting manager the other day. However, in Leesburg, I need 6. Now, I can't take 6 at one time because right now, Leesburg has 2 managers and 4 auditors. When I started, we had 11 auditors. And we still have 23, 24 audits to get done every year. Obviously, we are way behind because 4 people can't be expected to do the job of what 11 we're doing. Not only do I only have 4 auditors, I've lost a lot of experience in the last 5 years. I went from having a very senior heavy office to I have 1 senior now, or 1 senior 2. So, and senior 2 is the position where you're mostly be in charge of an audit. So, yeah, we definitely need 2 is probably at one time about all we could take, just because I don't have the staff to train. But I mean, yeah, we definitely need employees in the Leesburg office. I think y'all could take maybe 1, maybe 2. So.
What about internships?
We don't have any internships in the regional offices. It's just not conducive for what we do, because you get in there and, I mean, the internship would be over before you really got to see anything at all. Now, our Atlanta office does offer some internships, so you would have to just email the recruiter. It's on the back of that, and you can ask her about it, but we don't. We don't.
Trying to get the job.
If you, I'll tell you what, I've got some business cards up here. You can call, and it does not have my new telephone number on it, but that's okay, because you can get me with the telephone number it has. It's just, okay, so we just got a new phone system, and I don't like it. But I can give you my other number, my straight line too. But, I mean, if you send your resume to this email address, she'll call me, and then she'll look at my calendar, see when I have time, and we will set up interviews. So that's the start of the processes. And I mean, you can send your resume to me too. I don't have a problem with that. And my email address is on my card. So, I mean, you can send it to me if you feel more comfortable doing that, and I can forward it on to her. So that is one thing. If you do decide to work for the department, you start in the Atlanta office for 2 days for orientation. They go through all the benefit packages and let you sign up for all your benefits, but you do have to start up there because of all. You got to get all your computer equipment and make sure that they have everything on it that they need. So, and I guess now you'll get your phone.
When they go looking for a job.
One of the things, and this may seem obvious to y'all, but we get some applicants that this happens. Know Excel. Know how to use Excel inside and out, for the most part. Most of our stuff, all of our audit work papers are in Excel. You know, if we're typing up a memo, I mean, if we need to type out a conclusion, we put a text box in. And, you know, so, but knowing some ins and outs, I don't know how much y'all have worked in it, but we use a lot of pivot tables to go into and extrapolate the data and get out the information that we need. So I know when I was here, I took a class on Excel, and that really helped. I mean, they had a class strictly devoted to just Microsoft Excel. But just being able to take, you know, large sets of data, I mean, because you think about, if you were, I mean, just here, how many expenditures they have here to run this college, and then you've got to determine whether or not, you know, they're materially correct. Be personable, you know, don't be scared to go and talk to the client. I know we have some that come in and they're like, oh, I don't know what to say to them, but they're just like us. I mean, you know, they just want to do a good job. And that's some of the stuff we have to do is just sit down and talk to them and learn what their processes are. You know, being a hard worker and knowing that that you're gonna meet some bumps, you're gonna meet some challenges, but being able to get past those.